I had sat you down before the season started and said, this is the way the Fort Worth Fire hockey year is going to go, and then described the events exactly as they happened, would you have believed me? See, I would have had to tell you about the league record unbeaten streak and road winning streak, and you would have told me that they've never won more than 3 games in a row, and you'd have been right. And I would have been forced to mention that we'd have a winning record against every team in a 10-team league, and that we'd make the playoffs. You'd have said, but we've never made the playoffs before. I would go, did I mention the 3 All-Stars? You'd go, no way. Way. And there were a couple of quirky things, too, like Bill McDonald accumulating more piddly minutes than Mike Sanderson. Yeah, Mike Sanderson came back. And a bunch of the guys shaving their heads for the playoffs. You wouldn't have bought that. But if you would have believed those things, you might believe this one other thing. The Levens Trophy came to Fort Worth in 1997. Not to pass through on the way to San Antonio or Oklahoma City. No, it came here because the Fort Worth Fire, a bunch of good guys, defied the odds, and they won it. Here's how it happened. For the second year in a row, Fort Worth held training camp here at the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum. They were joined by the Memphis River Kings and the San Antonio Iguanas. The airlines and the bus services love minor league hockey camps because players enter and leave frequently. Like all CHL teams, Fort Worth had its share of young players, and Bill McDonald had to decide in the space of about 10 days which ones could keep up with his core of veterans.
The question mark in my mind was probably the young kids. I knew they could play. Like, I got some of them out of college and some of them out of the, the elite junior league in Canada, the OHL, and I've seen them play, but to fit in at this level, I really didn't know. So it was more of a trial and error basis, and obviously I worked out pretty good.
For a team that had never made the playoffs, it was important to prove early on that this group could compete in the bigger 10-team Central League. After an exhibition game win over Memphis solidified the roster, the opener was against last year's league runner-ups, the San Antonio Iguanas. For rookies like Mark O'Donnell and Murray Hogg, it was a learning experience.
It was high energy. We were excited because it's a new season, and we had a whole lot of practices as a team. We had just got the team formed. We had one exhibition game to be together, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of organization on the team. It was just systems and stuff. We just went out there and we just basically let our adrenaline take over.
There's butterflies there. It was a big thing, It's your first game of pro hockey, and it's pretty exciting.
With former All-Star Dale Henry now behind the bench, the Iggies didn't have quite the talent of previous years, and this one got ugly early.
That happened early in the season. We wanted to set the tone, and the fact that, we're not going to be a dirty hockey club, but we're going to work hard, and you can't push us around.
The tone was set to the tune of 215 penalty minutes and 7 game misconducts. But Fort Worth also contributed 4 goals that evening, including 2 by the nervous rookie, Mark O'Donnell. Steve Plouffe had also been on the anxious side before the game.
I was a little bit nervous because I didn't play the exhibition game in the training camp, so I was nervous. I only practiced the training camp. I didn't play that much in the summer, so I was a little bit nervous and anxious to, I played in this league last year, but, it's always something new, and I was a lot nervous, I can say.
The fans were ready for the new season as well, and one of the most prominent of those was Lisa Umbarger. She's the bassist for the nationally known rock and roll band, the Toadies. She and the group call Fort Worth home.
It's got to be a hometown thing. I like the Fort Worth Fire because Fire has Fort Worth in front of it. That's one of the reasons why I first started getting into Fort Worth Fire hockey.
Steve Plouffe had returned to the Fire for his second season with the team, and his strong play would buoy the Fort Worth ship throughout the year. Mark Strohack found that a good goalie makes that first pro season an easier adjustment.
That means a lot to a defenseman when you make a mistake, knowing that you have a goalie that will probably bail you out, even if you do.
On night number 2, Wichita came to visit. New coach Brian Wells had hoped to blend scoring and toughness, and he liked what he saw on the 19th of October. The East Coast League's all-time leading scorer had joined the Thunder, and Trevor Jobe lit up Fort Worth for 3 goals. Backup goalie Bob Delormier took the loss, but it was a valuable lesson for Fort Worth's young defense on what they would face at this level. The Fire next rolled off 3 straight wins against 3 1996 playoff teams. The Central League expanded for 96-97, adding 4 new teams and splitting into 2 divisions. The CHL placed Fort Worth geographically in the West with 4 other established teams. Memphis went east to join the 4 new teams. Fire General Manager Matt Van Hala had something new to sell.
The Central Hockey League expanded 4 teams rather abruptly in late summer, and I'm glad that it did, because as much as I like the rivalries between the other teams and the ones in Texas that we've had with the Freeze and the Iguanas and such, it's good for the fans, it's good for our players to see new competition coming in.
Fort Worth's first sample of the Eastern style came on November 2nd against the expansion Macon Whoopee. Macon kept it surprisingly close, but Ryan Black ended up with the second period game winner. The rookie would lead the team in goals the first 2 months of the season, and he wasn't the only young guy settling in. Mark Strohack was a +15 in the first 2 months and was finding out that Fort Worth was a pretty comfortable place to play hockey.
Well, the fans are great. They're really supportive. We've had great fans, great crowds all year. They're loud, banging on the glass, and they've just been really supportive of us all year.
Around this time, Bill McDonald made a decision to bring back an original Fire player, Mike Sanderson. To free up a roster spot, Bobby Cunningham was traded to Memphis.
You know, I told him when I come down to this, I said, you're going to an excellent coach in Herbie Boxer, and you're going to a good organization. We could end up, who knows, playing each other. But at the time, I had a chance to bring a little more age in. You know, I brought Mike Sanderson here. I do have a lot of kids I had to work with. I feel I work with. And it wasn't, you know, I didn't want to work with Bobby, but I had a centerman coming in with Mike Sanderson, and I just felt at that time we were young enough, and I just made that move more or less on that fact.
The Wichita Thunder handled Fort Worth for the 3rd straight time on November 8th. The Thunder had outscored the Fire 22-11 in the 3 games. The Fire got well against the Iguanas again on November the 9th. San Antonio's Dave Lilac and Jim Sprott helped the Fire cause with coincidental major penalties in the second period. Fort Worth scored 4 times in the 5-minute 5-on-3 power play. The Firemen turned the 9-5 win into momentum as they won the first 3 games of a 7-game road trip. The November trip included a win in the Myriad against the defending champion Oklahoma City Blazers, and they also stole their first win of the season against the Wichita Thunder. That Wichita rivalry was germinating.
Both teams play with a lot of emotion, and both teams have acquaintances on both sides, and so, you know, one team doesn't want the other team to get the upper hand. They have a physical hockey club, and we like to play physical as well.
Mullins and everyone else, and I do mean everyone, would find out just how physical Wichita could get before the game on December 4th. After moving into the Tarrant County Convention Center with a win against San Antonio, Fort Worth had won in Wichita on the 3rd. Tensions from that game lingered, and before the game even started, the benches cleared. Later that week, Bill McDonald explained what he saw.
I didn't think there was going to be any trouble, to tell you the truth, Rush, because we played them the night before. We won the game. We were lucky to win. Stefan Larocque scored with 20 seconds to go. I mean, we were just trying to get out of there with a point and maybe a shootout loss, if you want to that way. But, you know, back-to-back games, they came in here, and after it happened now, I firmly believe it was sort of premeditated. I watched my warm-ups for a while, and I do my regular things with the lines and who's playing with who, and there's stuff the coaches do, I do in the warm-ups. I went back down, and a little late getting his lineup. One of the minor officials said that he's a little different tonight, and you know, he played for me before, and I kind of know what he is. So, you know, I really thought nothing of it. And then we walk onto the ice, and I took a peek over to the other side, and I see Trevor Job talking to the referee. And just as I got where I walk into the box, their spare goalie Langlock come flying through, and he tried to spear. It looked like a tomahawk one of our guys, and then they just converged on us, and it looked like their main target was Stefan Larocque. Which really makes me think it was pre-planned, and you know, he had 2 goals and 2 assists the night before. He is a pain in the butt. That's his role, and they don't like it. But I mean, you don't do that before the game. You do it during the game if you want to try to get him. And then it just kind of escalated. They keep coming to the bench. I got Larocque into the bench, and there's no way he should have been suspended. That really hurt me because I thought I was doing my job, just trying to, you know, because I know what was happening. And as far as me and Wellesley, I guess he got mad when I grabbed one of their guys because they were sort of coming towards the bench. And you know, the glass had come down. He just, you know, come and grabbed me, and I grabbed him. I don't think there would be any punches thrown because obviously, you know, he played for me, you know, and it was just more verbal than it was physical.
Coach Wells received a 2-game suspension. Before a game later in December, he told his side of the story.
Simply, we have a very aggressive team with 13 out of our 17 kids are rookies in professional hockey, and they're all aggressive kids. And with what happened in warm-up the last time, our guys were just not going to be pushed around.
Fort Worth lost in San Antonio, then won in Tulsa. Menard's tally was the game winner, and the 4-0 shutout felt good.
The whole team's involved in the shutout. It starts with the forwards, checking hard so they can't break out of their end clearly, coming back and back checking, picking up men, and right to us, getting the puck up quickly, right down to the goalie, making the saves when he has to. So I think a shutout, the whole team should get credit for it, not just the defense or the goalie, because defense is a team game, just like offense is, or playing in net. Everybody's involved.
The Tulsa shutout put smiles on the guys' faces, but the next Tuesday's game against Oklahoma City wiped them off. The Blazers blasted Fort Worth in the Tarrant County Convention Center. Fort Worth had to wonder how good a hockey team they really were.
We were awful, absolutely awful, and I think that was the biggest turning point of our year. They came in here, they kicked our butt, they embarrassed us in front of our hometown fans, and that we went there the next day. That was a Tuesday game here. We went there for a Wednesday game, and we beat them 2-1 in their building in regulation, and that was the end of the story right there. That made us a team. That 6-1 loss made us a team, and coming back and winning 2-1 the next night in their building in front of 10,000, 11,000 people, that made our season. We then knew what we could do.
A Friday road win in San Antonio brought the Fire to back-to-back Saturday and Sunday games against Tulsa and Huntsville. Mark O'Donnell felt pretty good about the Oiler game.
It seemed like in warm-up, when you're shooting on the goalie or 2-on-1, they're just basically taking shots. Everything just seemed to find a hole. And the first night, I wanted to get the game going because I saw in warm-up, everything just seemed to find a hole, and just seemed whatever I could shoot. I think I scored one from behind the goal line. I just shot on net, and just as luck would have it, it happened to go in. Everything just seemed to be going my way that weekend.
O'Donnell scored 3 goals in the win over Tulsa and 3 more the next day as Fort Worth chased Channel Cats goalie Troy Siebel. That game marked the return of former Fire players Alex Kolomayev and Igor Bondarev, but the event was overshadowed by O'Donnell's back-to-back hat tricks.
It's really good to see, and it's nice to see, especially a kid like Mark O'Donnell. He's 21 years old, and he's had a tremendous season for our team. He really came through for us. And when you see someone do something like that, it's a real accomplishment. You make sure you go up to that guy and you tap him on the back, because not anyone's going to do that at any time of the year. So what he did was, it was a real accomplishment.
On December 18th, Fort Worth waxed Oklahoma City for their 5th straight win. The streak was at 6 when Fort Worth played Wichita for the first time since the pregame brawl earlier in the month. This time, Fort Worth scored 7 goals, including this one by new addition Carlos Asayag. The final was 7-1. The Fire also outskated the Thunder the next night in a 6-3 home victory. Asayag lit the lamp again, this time for the game winner. He had been a December roster addition after McDonald released Malcolm Cameron. Asayag made an impression on the fans, the league, and the Dasher boards with his physical play. What made the December winning streak especially impressive was that it was accomplished without Ryan Black, who went on the injured list December 6th and didn't return until after the new year. We were happy to have him in the broadcast booth, but we knew where he would rather have been.
Ryan, they can't see your leg here. I don't know if they can see the leg brace there. But we definitely appreciate you coming up and talking to us.
Yeah, it's great.
And come up anytime. I mean, until you get back to playing. We'd rather be calling your name down there instead of up here.
Too.
The winning streak continued into 1997. By this time, Terry Menard had taken over the team lead in scoring.
Terry Menard, is a class individual. Played for me in Thunder Bay, obviously, and we've hit it off pretty good, over the years. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Terry, and his hockey playing ability obviously speaks for itself on the ice, and his leadership roles is unbelievable.
Terry Menard never regretted coming to Fort Worth, and a big reason was the team chemistry he saw developing.
We had a lot of ups and downs, but we've had more ups and downs this year. We started off a little slow, but as the season went on, we got stronger.
The Fire had won 10 in a row by the time Memphis made their first trip to Fort Worth since training camp. Preseason predictions had the River Kings favored to easily win the East, but they had fallen 7 points behind first-place Macon. The Fire trailed early after Stefan Waugh's goal, but physically dominated the final 2 periods to take a 3-1 win. Their streak was 1 short of the league record set by Oklahoma City the previous season. The next game was in Tulsa. The Fire did not bring their best game, and Tulsa won in the shootout. The winning streak was over, but Fort Worth had still not lost in regulation in some 12 games. A big part of the winning streak and the season was the man from Quebec, who had become the team's second leading scorer. Stéphane Larocque put up the numbers and was also a fan favorite. Larocque is one of those players every team wants on their side, but no one wants to play against.
Well, every game I want to give my 120% and do everything that's going to make the team win.
Tulsa returned for a date in the convention center on January 11th. Before the game, Bill McDonald made an important roster move. He suspended Carlos Asayag and signed a player who had won 3 Colonial League championships with him in Thunder Bay, Todd Howarth.
Great character guy. Plays hard every shift he's on the ice. Another kid that I had in Thunder Bay. I took him in Thunder Bay the first year I won a championship there, or excuse me, when we won a championship.
A season-high crowd of 6,659 watched 3 periods in which Fort Worth never led, but Terry Menard scored on Derek Shabunka in the 3rd period, and the game ended up in a shootout.
And he kind of spotted me that whole game, and then it came to the shootout, and he went through his 5 guys that he wanted out there, and then it was still tied. So he took a look at me and asked me if I felt all right, and I said, yeah, and I said I just went out, and I usually do one play when I'm in a shootout. I only do one thing, is I usually pump fake, and I always go glove shelf, and it just happened to go on net.
Shabunka out, Howarth, goal! Oh! Howarth wins it for Fort Worth in his first game with the team.
The win sent Fort Worth on their annual January road trip. Oklahoma City, Wichita, Nashville, Memphis, and Huntsville could not interrupt Fort Worth's momentum as Plouffe won all 5. The Fire had not lost in regulation in 18 consecutive contests, and so it was the Wichita Thunder arrived on January 31st. There was a lot riding on this one, most notably that Fort Worth could clinch its first ever playoff berth with a win. Through 5 years, 3 coaches, and 117 players, the Fire had never made the postseason. They badly wanted the 2 points this night and started off in fine fashion, as Stéphane Larocque had a goal and 2 assists, and Fort Worth led 5-2 with the 3rd period half over. But 3 quick thunderclaps tied the game. It was Anton Fedorov's power play goal in the final minute that sent it to a shootout.
I love it. It's great. I think it's not a good way. I don't think it's a good way to end a game, because it's not fair. But it's a great show, for the fans, and I love it too. I love that.
And this shootout would decide if the city would have to wait even longer for the Fire's first playoff spot. It was at this point, with everything on the line, that Steve Plouffe watched Jude Bouillon skate from the center red line.
Maybe it's a great save, but for me it's a bad move, because I went down very, very fast, way too fast, and it's just lucky I just, a move that I try, but he shoot in my glove, and I didn't save it. He shoot in my glove. It's spectacular, and it's a great save for everybody, but I know for me it's a bad save. I did the bad move.
Plouffe had saved the 2 points for the moment, but the Fire still had to score to win. The home team shoots last in the shootout, and we were tied when Mark Strohack came over the boards.
I was kind of surprised that they called me to shoot in the shootout, but it was getting down in the bench, I guess, a little bit. I just went in, skated into the puck, it hopped up on me a couple times all the way down the ice. I thought I was going to lose control of it. Got in front of the net and just put my head down and took a shot and tried to go between his legs. I don't know where it went in, but luckily it did. And yeah, it was a great day for everybody on the team.
Playing their 6th game in 10 days, the Fire's energy level gave out the next night against Tulsa. Menard had 2 first-period goals, but Luc Beausoleil lit the lamp twice in the 3rd period, and Tulsa came away with a 6-4 win. The lossless streak came to an end, as did the Fire's regular season stint in the Fort Worth-Kern County Convention Center. Only the 1948 Cleveland Barons of the American League had gone longer in the history of minor league hockey without a regulation loss. Their streak reached 27 games. Among the records Fort Worth had surpassed was that of the Colonial League. That mark was set in 93-94 by the Thunder Bay Senators, coached by Bill McDonald. For the rest of the regular season, the Fire would skate in the Will Rogers Coliseum. On February 7th, they hosted the team with the league's worst record, the expansion Nashville Nighthawks. The Fire got more of a game than they expected, thanks in large part to a 50-save performance by former Dallas Freeze goalie Greg Smith. It was tied 2-2 with a little more than 5 minutes to go when Murray Hogg decided to tee one up.
To tell you the truth, I really don't know how it went in, but I remember scoring that goal, and it's a big goal to score. It's exciting.
The next night brought Tulsa to the Coliseum and also the season's first sellout. More than 6,000 Fire fans watched Bob Delormier hold on for his 6th win of the season, 5-4. The big crowd saw some great hockey and more. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders entertained, along with the Fire's very own mascot, Scorch.
We were happy to have Scorch become part of the Fort Worth Fire. He wandered in off the street one day about 3 years ago, and just seemed like his heart was in the right place, and that he was going to be able to do some good things for us. And I think going along with the team, Scorch has just, he's evolved and become just a true part of the Fort Worth Fire and the team and the whole organization. And the kids love him, and you know, he gets a little crazy sometimes, and we got a bad dog, but you know, we try to keep him in line. But for really, he's been a fabulous addition to the Fort Worth Fire.
On the road in Oklahoma City, Joe Burton scored 2 goals, but the Fire also pulled out a win on February 9th. That put Fort Worth in position for a pretty good week. They were in second place at this point, 3 points back of the front-running Blazers. Fort Worth had a game against last-place San Antonio, followed by a tilt against the Blazers. They had the opportunity to make OKC feel the heat a bit. Instead, they went on their longest winless streak of the season. Regulation losses to the Blazers and San Antonio, combined with shootout losses to Columbus and the Iguanas, gave the Fire only 2 standings points in 4 games, and the Blazers solidified their lead. Of additional consequence, Mike McCourt, the team's top blue line scorer, got called up to the Carolina Monarchs of the American League after that first San Antonio game.
Well, it was a big hole in our lineup. You know, I was happy for Mike to get called up.
The Wichita Thunder arrived on February 21st fighting for a playoff spot. They faced a Fire team in need of a sudden shift into reverse. That shift came from a familiar driver.
It was exciting. I felt pretty good all through the day, and so as the game kind of progressed, things just kind of snowballed. And it was a nice feeling. Kind of when everything goes together, it's that's just kind of one of those things that happens, and everything seemed to fall together in the right place. And no, it's a good feeling. Yeah, definitely.
Dwight's 2 early goals carried Fort Worth to a win. Mullins had the longest continuous tenure as a Fire player, predating Bill McDonald. As the team captain, he played a vital role in Fort Worth's success.
I take it as a big responsibility. Other guys are looking to you for not only leadership, but maybe some guidance in other areas. And at times, maybe you can't be everybody's friend, but at the same time, you try to make sure that the guys are comfortable and make sure that really the guys are just focused on the reason why they're here. I try to lead through example, so I put a little extra pressure on myself to make sure that I'm prepared to play every night, and that's basically been my approach.
After a home-and-home split with San Antonio, Fort Worth defeated Tulsa 4-1 on the home ice. Stefan Larocque lit the lamp, and he also lit up the crowd when he jawed a little with season-long adversary Doug Lawrence.
Well, I know he wants to put on a show, and I respect that. I think you need some guys who put on a show. I do sometimes, and he does it, and that's good for the fans, because when he comes here, people, they put wigs and stuff, and it's funny, and it's good. They put some people, fans get loud and stuff.
Stefan's kind of like the same type of player. He's, he's a competitor. He likes to win, and he does anything for his team. And when someone sees somebody running around and sticking other players and hitting guys, they think that he's dirty, but really he's just going out there trying to lift their team up and, get them going.
Fort Worth next faced another season-long rival. The Wichita Thunder had traded the CHL's leading scorer, Trevor Jobe, but proved they could still put it up on the scoreboard by nailing a 5 spot on Steve Plouffe. Former Dallas Freeze star Jim Magoo had the game winner in the 3rd period. The Fire recovered to go 3-0-1 on a 4-game road trip, then returned to again face the Thunder in the season's final weekend. Wichita needed a win in their last 3 games to prevent a playoff spot from slipping away. Fort Worth had settled into 2nd place. The Fire got a good effort anyway, and 2 Terry Menard goals carried the team to a 3-1 win. The Thunder went scoreless for the last 50-plus minutes as Steve Plouffe made his season-high 48 saves. With the playoffs ahead, Plouffe seemed to have gotten into the zone.
You feel like you can stop everything, and it's the best feeling in the world, I guess, and that's very, very fun.
They must have used the big pucks for most of Plouffe's games in 1996 and 97. As he headed to his final regular season start against Oklahoma City, he had wrapped up the league lead for wins and also led in save percentage. He trailed only the Blazers' Jean-Ian Filiatro in goals against. Filiatro would start across the rink from Plouffe on March 16th, but he played only one period. Goals by Howarth and then Ryan Black on a deflection contributed to Doug Sauter's decision to start the veteran Mike Williams in the second period. Fort Worth held on to win the game 3-2. The commemorative St. Patrick's Day jerseys were auctioned to benefit A Wish with Wings. Thus concluded the most successful regular season in club history. They posted 95 points, the third best total in CHL history. They had set league records for consecutive games without a loss and for consecutive road wins. Now, for the first time, the playoffs were at hand.
In the regular season, you can live for another day. Usually, like once you make the playoffs, you know you're there. But once you get in the playoffs, you got to live each day, each game as it's your last game, and you want to finish off that team as quick as you can because you want to stay as healthy as you can. And you don't get no room out there as you do in the regular season. The check-in's much more tighter. The hits are finished more. Like everybody's just playing harder, and it's the best time of the year. It's fun.
Even though this was the first time in the playoffs for the Fire franchise, several players had postseason experience from elsewhere. Vern Ray, for one, had his own ritual for getting ready, and he managed to convince a bunch of the young guys that ball was the way to go.
I don't know. I started in junior. I started with a mohawk, and this is actually the first time I've gone totally bald, other than at the end of the year shaving it all off to let it grow back evenly. But yeah, it started in junior and it's just continued on. The hockey helmet is made to fit around your hair. So you got some hair up there, it all fits in the helmet and it fits nice. When you shave it all off, you got some loose gaps. So it's actually pretty good, Rush. It cools your head down, it keeps you a little cooler than when you got a head full of hair. But when you first put that helmet on, it kind of sticks when the hair starts growing back. And it's all right when you get in a fight, the helmet doesn't come off as easy.
For Mike Sanderson, an original team member making the playoffs for the first time was important.
Oh, it feels great. I mean, we got a great bunch of guys who worked hard all year. You know, we deserve it, so I feel good about it.
They would face the Tulsa Oilers in the first round. Tulsa had last won a CHL championship in the league's inaugural season under coach Gary Unger. Now, Unger had an experienced team thinking upset. The series would open in Fort Worth on March 19th. It was hotly contested into the third period when Stefan Larocque scored with just under 3 minutes left to give the Fire a 5-4 lead. Jason Rushton answered on the next shift to tie it, but Larocque got the puck again with a minute and a half remaining in regulation.
Intercepted by Howard. Howard dropped it. Larocque moving in. Shoots, goal! Let's see the hats.
Larocque had his hat trick, and Fort Worth skated away with a Game 1 victory.
And this year I'm playing well, and I guess because I'm working hard, and Terry and Todd's playing on my left wing, or Brian Caruso, and we're working hard, and anybody plays together, we all want to win, so it doesn't matter who you play, we want to win, and we're doing good, and I guess I'm shooting the puck more, and it goes in, so I'm happy.
Tulsa won Game 2 at home, but Doug Lawrence was suspended for Games 3 and 4 after an incident with a fan. His line-mate Luc Beausoleil scored 2 goals, but Fort Worth took Game 3 as Larocque scored the game winner late in the third. Fort Worth could wrap up the first round in Tulsa 2 nights later. Instead, the Fire turned in perhaps their worst effort of the year against a charged-up Oiler team playing at home. Tulsa rode their hot goaltender Rod Branch to a 6-1 win, and Steve Plouffe knew he had a challenge ahead of him to win a decisive game.
I think it bumped me up a little bit more. You know, I want to try to beat. My goal is always to try to beat the other goalie, and when he play good, I have to play better.
Tulsa had embarrassed Fort Worth in Game 4. It must have stung because the Fire displayed perhaps their finest total team effort of the season in Game 5. All 3 lines scored, and the forwards and defensemen gave Plouffe all the support he needed. The final was 3-0. Steve Plouffe had taken some abuse from a large contingent of Tulsa fans, and now he could fire back.
My favorite moment, and this is hands down my favorite moment, was after the last Tulsa game when Plouffe came back out on the ice and shot at their fans with his stick. I thought that was just brilliant because they totally gave him a hard time on their home ice, and then they came here and during warm-ups were giving him a hard time, and he pulled a shutout and then came back out on the ice when he got player of the game and shot down their fans. That was brilliant.
It was a great feeling. You know, I never thought I could have a shutout. You know, all through the series, they had a great power play and they played great offensively. I never thought the 5th game of the series I had a shutout.
The game turned out to be the last for Gary Unger as coach of the Tulsa Oilers. The only coach in franchise history was let go shortly after the Oilers' season ended. Balanced scoring had not been a strength of Unger's last Tulsa club, but it has been important all season for Fort Worth. The lines had pretty well settled in by this time. Menard, Howarth, and LaRock, Sanderson, Black, and O'Donnell, and Robbins, Mullins, and Caruso. The top two lines were expected to score goals and play strong defense. The third line would score when possible, but their role was generally otherwise defined.
Our role is pretty simple. We want to keep the puck deep on other teams, and we want to try to come up with some big hits and definitely force a lot of turnovers in the offensive zone just by finishing our checks and playing physical. I think that all three of us kind of complement that role.
It had become apparent by this point that Mike McCourt would not return to the Fire.
And I have to give a tremendous amount of credit to our defensemen who I didn't even know in my mind. You lose a guy like Mike McCourt, but I take my hat off to them. They just stepped up and played unbelievable. Every one of them.
The Fire would have to get by with steady blue line play by guys like Steve Carter and Glenn Painter, and they would have to be prepared for physical play because the Wichita Thunder were next. Brian Wells brought his team in fresh off a 4-game upset of the injury-depleted defending champs, the Oklahoma City Blazers. Former Memphis goaltender Hugo Hamlin came in on a hot streak, but it was Steve Plouffe who made 26 saves and came away with the win. Terry Menard sealed it with the empty netter, and Fort Worth had a 1-game lead in the Western Division Finals. The next game was as close and rougher. Vern Ray received a game misconduct for instigating a fight with Dan Kopech, and Wichita's Casey Hungle later got one for instigating with Dwight Mullins. LaRock had a 3-point game, including his 8th and 9th goals of the playoffs. After Robbins scored the Fire's 6th goal late in the third, Hugo Hamlin could not contain his frustration. Bob Berg's first period power play goal got Wichita back on track in Game 3. Adam Robbins and Eddie Marchand got rough later in the period, but playoff intensity kept the game from getting out of hand. Stefan LaRock tied it for Fort Worth in the second, but the Fire would get no closer. Jim Magoo's game winner cut the Fire series lead to 2-1. Nearly 6,000 Wichita fans were elated when Eddie Marchand scored the first goal of Game 4 at 12:21 of the first. But James Boyd, activated from the replacement roster when Mike Sanderson went down, introduced himself to the Thunder's Marty Melnichuk in the first period, and it helped get the team going. Fort Worth scored 3 power play goals and escaped with a 4-3 win. The team returned home with a chance to wrap up the series in 5 games. Mark O'Donnell scored first for the Fire, but Wichita led after the first period. Jim Magoo, who had 3 playoff game-winning goals, scored goal number 2. Clint Black made it 3-1 in the second period, but the Fire battled back, and the game was tied in the third when Adam Robbins crashed the net going after a Mullins rebound. It proved to be his second game-winning goal of the series.
Wichita, a little bit different makeup. Try to play a lot tougher. They have some guys who like to get involved, but probably brought our team a little bit closer together after we won that series.
The thing that I think that really is going to stick with me after this season is we were ready to have a locker room celebration after the Wichita series, and it was all ready to have a lot of fun in the locker room area, celebrate and have some fun and look forward to the next series. But I went back into the locker room, and all the players were just sitting there, very solemn and not cracking any kind of champagne, smoking any cigars or anything like that. They said, "We haven't won anything yet. We're focused. We'll talk about celebrating 2 weeks from now."
While the Fire waited for the Eastern Division to finish, the CHL made 2 important arena announcements. In San Antonio, the Iguanas were forced to cease operations after an unfavorable court decision left them with nowhere to play. In Fort Worth, however, arrangements with the Will Rogers Coliseum and the Fort Worth Tarrant County Convention Center were renewed for another 2 years.
With the kind of season that we had from a business standpoint, it was good to make that public. I mean, it's been known by the organization and the league that we've planned on having a long-term agreement with both of the arenas that we play in, and both of the arenas have been fabulous to work with as far as securing dates and helping us out with training camp, and I'm glad that we now have it on paper that we are going to officially be doing that. I think it was a good idea from a business and marketing standpoint, just to let the fans in Fort Worth and Tarrant County know that this team's going to be around for a long time to come, and also to relieve any kind of questions or ambiguity that there might be with the situation that arose in San Antonio, where the IHL team, the San Antonio Dragons, came in and they were vying for the same time at one arena's ice. So that is something that the league and the Fire wanted to alleviate any of those kind of questions.
The Fire changed home rinks for the finals. With ice unavailable at Will Rogers, the Convention Center would host hockey for the first time since February. Before Game 1, the team raised the Western Division Championship banner, and they planned something special for the national anthem as well. It just so happened that some native Fort Worth musicians were also huge Fort Worth Fire fans.
We're home writing the record right now, and it just worked out perfectly that this is the season they went to the championship round, and it was just a given that we were going to do something like this.
Whose broad stripes shine like stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watch the so gallantly stream, and the rockets' red flag, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Despite the tremendous send-off, play lagged early as Fort Worth came off a nearly 2-week layoff. With just under 6 minutes to go in the period, the Fire finally broke through and shorthanded no less.
I just, it's kind of a lucky break for us. I remember I was forechecking the defenseman in our own end, and I slipped and trying to get up, and I couldn't catch him, so I kind of poked the puck off his stick, and I got up real fast, and the puck went to Steve Carr, and he just banked off the boards, and I just had a break when it was coming down, and I just shot it, and it went in.
Memphis had beaten the East's #1 and 2 teams, Huntsville and Macon, on the way to the finals. Coach Herb Boxer had added grit late in the season in an effort to toughen up his team. The River Kings had been known for being smooth but soft, but that situation had been remedied somewhat by the playoffs. However, all 3 Fort Worth lines scored in Game 1, and Steve Plouffe made it stand up. Fort Worth took a 1-0 lead in the series. Game 2 started well for Fort Worth. Strohack and LaRock staked out a 2-zip lead after the first. Then suddenly the momentum changed. It happened ironically just after a successful Fire penalty kill. Murray Hogg emerged from the box and lined up former teammate Bobby Cunningham. It was a good clean check by Hogg, but he felt pain in his shoulder and had to leave the game. He was later diagnosed with a broken collarbone and would miss the rest of the series. The Fire played the rest of the period in a daze. Jamie Cook, Mark Boxer, Carl Menard, and Cunningham all lit the lamp to give Memphis a 4-2 lead. The Fire fought back, and Strohack's second power play goal tied it at 4 in the third.
Our power play hadn't been that successful in the playoffs so far, and Coach McDonald suggested that we might not be shooting the puck enough, trying to make too many fancy plays, and he wanted us to just get more shots on net, whether they come from the side, the point, anywhere, just to get more shots on net and try and bat in some rebounds in front.
Then suddenly, Jamie Cook turned a Glenn Painter giveaway into a shorthanded goal and a 5-4 River King lead. It seemed the Kings were about to steal one, but Fort Worth pulled Plouffe, and Brian Caruso came on as an extra skater. He kept the puck alive in the Memphis corner, and Stefan LaRock sent it in front. Todd Howarth slammed it home, and the Fire were still alive. Now came overtime. The OT went back and forth, a pair of coincidental penalties, but no goals. Then at the 14-14 mark, Ryan Black came on the ice. The problem was Brian Caruso was still out there. Paul Mariconda whistled a penalty for too many men on the ice. And a little over a minute later, Andrew Miller banged one home. Memphis had emerged with a 6-5 victory. It was the longest game in CHL history. The series now shifted to Memphis. Dale Matthew had come off the emergency roster to replace Murray Hogg. Terry Menard scored the first goal on a wraparound, but the Memphis captain Andrew Miller would even things up shorthanded. The Fire were outshot 33-15 in the game, but Steve Plouffe held them in. It was still 1-1 when Adam Robbins stepped in to take a draw.
Well, all I remember is we were just lined up for the draw, and Addy it was a scramble thing. It was a scramble face-off, and it kind of came out. It looked like Mully tipped it to shoot, and it came out right to me, and I just one-timed the shot, and I beat him on the far side, and it's like, there was about 8 minutes left in the game, and it's kind of like, well, we have to just, try to get another one or, play strong defense, and we ended up playing a pretty good end of the game, and we ended up winning.
In Game 4, the River Kings used the abbreviated neutral zone in the Mid-South Coliseum to their advantage. A trapping defense combined with fire mistakes put them on top in the second period. Derek Grant converted a takeaway for his first goal of the series and a 2-0 Memphis lead. The Fire had expended significant energy, killing penalties in the first period, and Steve Thorpe held on for a 4-0 shutout. The series was tied at 2. Fort Worth was finding the going difficult in the tight confines of the Memphis rink.
I think we had a little bit of trouble adjusting to it. You know, we've only played there once all year. Smaller rink, small neutrals, ice zone. I would think it would be better suited for our team. And I think, like, if we played in that division and got used to it, we would have probably played a lot better. But going in there and not playing there at all, it was hard to adjust right away.
Game 5 was another tight defensive battle. Memphis held a 1-0 lead after 1, but Todd Howarth knotted it by directing a Strohack drive. However, a roughing call in LaRock midway through the second period gave Jamie Cook a chance. His slapper landed the Kings a 2-1 lead. The final was 3-1, and Memphis was 1 win away. Game 6 took place on a Tuesday night in Fort Worth. East of here, the Dallas Stars were losing Game 7 of their first-round playoff series to the Oilers from Edmonton. In Fort Worth, hearts sank as a Fire cast-off Bobby Cunningham scored the game's first goal for Memphis. But Fort Worth answered when Vern Ray cranked one from the point and Brian Caruso deflected it across the line. It was Caruso's third goal of the series.
He did everything I asked of him. You know, he's kind of a quiet guy, believe it or not. Doesn't play quite very much on the ice sometimes, which is good. But you know, I think he's improved too over the last 2 years, and he's a great team leader on and off the ice. And again, you know, he stepped forward and played very well for us.
The so-called blue line of Sanderson, Black, and O'Donnell had been ineffective in Memphis, but they liked the bigger ice surface in Fort Worth much better as Black and Sanderson both scored in the second. However, 2 goals by Memphis blue liners, Brown and Kelsey, kept it tied into the third. Early on, O'Donnell found some room in the right and beat Thorpe. 2 minutes later, Thorpe left the game, perhaps still feeling the effects of an injury he had suffered in the second period. Kevin Deschambeau had not played in the series but had to face only 2 shots on goal the rest of the way. The referee, Brian Graham, let the teams play, calling nothing in the third until he sent Glenn Painter to the box for hooking with just more than 3 minutes to play. The Fire won some key face-offs and killed off the penalty. They kept it 4-3, and the stage was set for Game 7. League Commissioner Monty Murin was among those anticipating the excitement.
Well, when you get a nice, exciting series, two highly competitive teams going at it head-to-head and go 7 games, and you get the fan excitement that's elevated in both cities and gets down to the final game, it's exciting. You wish at this point both teams could win. You hate to see one have to lose, but that's the way it is, and there'll be a champion tonight, and get the opportunity and the privilege to be able to present the trophy to the champions.
Kevin Deschambeau started Game 7 when Thorpe couldn't go. Mike Sanderson stayed hot in the first period, scoring on a 4-on-4 within the first 5 minutes. However, Dan Brown took advantage of a Ryan Black tripping penalty to even it from the blue line at the 17:56 mark. In the second period, LaRock got on the board with a wraparound.
Terry gave me the puck. I was on my speed, you know, I was moving, and that defense, I think I caught him flat-footed, so I went around the net, and they let me go at the net, so I think I hit the post and went in. So
Minutes later, Painter took a boarding penalty, and Patrick Clement scored from the left of the slot. Memphis carried the play the rest of the period, but Steve Plouffe kept the puck in front of him, and the season looked like it would come down to 1 period.
You know, we've been a pretty close-knit group through the whole thing, and we had a little meeting before the game. And you know, I've been through this situation before as a player when I was younger, obviously, and as a coach. And I says, we've been here all year, guys, and if you can just think of one person that you want to dedicate this game to. And I more or less said the same thing after the second period. It's still tied, boys. We got 1 period. Remember who we're dedicating this period to. And I think it maybe emotionally lift them up. And I did have help, obviously, from Chief and Howie and Terry, the older guys.
Intense, frantic, physical. The third period of Game 7 must be all of these. This one was also scoreless when Scott Kelsey took a tripping penalty at the 11:56 mark. About halfway through the power play, Stefan LaRock saw Mark O'Donnell rotate the puck to Strohack at the point.
We had a lot of problems against them with our power play, so I saw Stroey, and I told Stroey, I said, if you get a puck, I said, just put it on net. I said, we cannot be too fancy, you know, so Stroey put it on net. I think it touched my stick and went in or something like that. I was happy. We had to score that third goal.
Now it was up to Plouffe and the Fort Worth defense. Memphis pulled their keeper with under 2 minutes to go, and the fans begin to count.
Here's Caruso. The safe play was to send it to the corner, and he did. 8 seconds to go. Grant drives it up ice. This would be icing. Fort Worth is about to win.
The game and the series had ended. The celebration had just begun. League President Ray Murin presented the playoff MVP trophy to Steve Plouffe, and then Commissioner Monty Murin called Dwight Mullins, the captain, forward to receive the Bill Levens Trophy as league champions. Hockey tradition indicates that the players skate around the rink, each carrying the trophy part of the way, celebrating with the fans. And Todd Howarth, who had done this sort of thing before, brought the trophy to his coach. Then, for the first time in team history, the Fire locker room was a championship locker room. And let me tell you, it looked the part. Most of the guys found that winning feeling difficult to explain, but were more than willing to try.
You can't explain that feeling. It's an incredible feeling. It's the greatest feeling of your life, and it's great.
For Matt Van Halle, it was also time to thank the fans.
Fort Worth Fire crowd, most loyal, loud, unpretentious fans that I've ever run across, and that people that have been to our games, that they've been working in sports for decades, have worked at all the different levels of sports, have always said that your fans are just, you know, they're without parallel. They'll just, I mean, these fans were the ones that were there for the past 4 years when we haven't made it into the postseason, and you know, now there's a few new fans, and that's great. You know, the added exposure that we've received from getting into the CHL finals and actually winning the whole thing. It's great because it just has exposed the Fire and the value and the fun, basically, of Fort Worth hockey to a whole new sect of people.
And the party continued. The next day, the city honored the team on Main Street. Pulling up in fire trucks, Stefan Larocque and the boys showed off their prize and let the fans join the revelry. As usual, they accommodated every autograph request. That evening, more festivities. An appreciation party at the Will Rogers Complex gave over 1,000 fans a chance to personally thank the players for the good times gone by. The program honored the team, with Terry Menard and Steve Plouffe being recognized as team most valuable players. Stefan Larocque was selected the most popular player in a close fan balloting. Dwight Mullins and Vern Ray received the Fort Worth Award for extra effort and team spirit. Perhaps the loudest cheers, however, were reserved for Coach Bill McDonald. The golf clubs were nice, the recognition and the applause, but Macker's ultimate enjoyment came from the players and their accomplishments.
We've created a champion, and here they are.
Through the course of a long season, the bond between coach and team had held firm.
We went at it all year, and you know, spent a lot of time together, and it was very much of a togetherness team, and it was very, very grateful last night for me when we won.
The whole team always played together, thought together. They practiced hard all the time. There wasn't a period in the season where they figured, like, well, we were locked to the playoffs, we might as well just coast and see what we have. But they stuck to it the whole time. Ended up getting a home ice advantage throughout, which I think became a very important factor for it. So the hard work paid off. The team had a lot of heart and a lot of soul.
To all you Fire fans, thanks. It's been a great season. We hope you've enjoyed this program. Here's a look at the people that helped make it possible.